What's up, gamers? If you've been live streamed for any amount of time, then you know it takes a little bit to get up and running. Do you want to let your viewers know that you're there and you'll be starting soon? Well, today I'm going to show you how to make your own starting soon bumper in Adobe After Effects. It's time to level up. What's up, gamers? Today I'm going to show you how I built this simple graphic in Adobe After Effects. Let's get started. Alright, first off, I am going to create a new composition by hitting the new comp button, and I want this comp to be 1920 by 1080. If you're doing 1720 or you're even doing 4K, you'll have to change these dimensions accordingly. And hit OK. And first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add my background, which today is going to be this red and gold dust background. And I'm going to hit S for scale. I'm going to scale this out a little bit. Maybe about there. Let's just bring this over. I like that. Alright, next up we're going to add the camo background. I'm going to drop that in on top of my red and gold dust layer. And I'm going to take the opacity of this down. With the layer selected, I'm going to hit T. And I'm going to bring this opacity down to maybe like 10%. I just want it to show up in there just a little bit, just to give it some texture. Alright, and next up I am going to add this grid layer. And hit S for scale, and I'm going to bring this back a bit. And now we need to get rid of this black background, so I'm going to go Effect, Key, Linear Color Key, and use the eyedropper tool to select the black. And now we just have this white boxes in here. So with this layer still selected, I'm going to go to Effect, Color Correction, and I'm going to go down to Change to Color. And I want to change this from white to maybe like a deep red. And hit OK. And change this from hue to hue, lightness, and saturation. And I'm going to bring up that hue all the way up just to make sure I get all of it. And that's pretty good. I'm going to drop the opacity on this grid layer. So with the layer selected, I'm going to hit T and bring this down to maybe like 50, maybe 40%. I don't want it to be too distracting. Just kind of want it to be noticeable. Alright, so our background's looking pretty good. Let's add some text in here. So I'm going to go to the text tool and just kind of click in the middle here and type in Livestream. And I want this to be my primary text, which for me is the Dr. Glitch. And then I'm going to make this italic. And I know that's too far apart with the kerning, so I'm going to bring that down to 100. So it's a little closer together. And then I'm going to make this text larger. Maybe about 100 for my font size. And then with that font selected, I'm going to center it using the align tools. And then I'm going to need to add another text below it. And I'm going to say live stream starting soon. There we go. And with this one, I want to change the font. So I'm going to use Futura Medium. And I'm going to take the italics off. And I'm going to make this text much smaller. Maybe about there, about 40. And I'm going to increase the kerning back up to about 400. Just kind of spread that out a little bit more. And then I'm going to center this text as well. Cool. All right, next up I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to create a box around this live stream. And I want it to intersect this starting soon text. All right, and with this, I'm going to change the stroke to white and hit OK. And I'm going to bring this up to 10 for the width of the stroke. And now I need to get rid of this black background within there. So I'm going to change the fill. If you just click on the text for fill and bring the opacity down to 0 and hit OK. All right, so now with this rectangle selected, I need to center it. So I'm going to use the align tool and center it horizontally and vertically. And now I'm going to select my starting soon text and just use my keyboard just to bring this up right here, about in the middle of that rectangle. So now what we want to do is we want to cut out this part of the rectangle. So there's a few different ways you can do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the rectangle and I'm going to go Effect, Transition, Linear Wipe, and change this transition completion up just so we get past that N a little bit. That works. And now I'm going to take this same rectangle layer and hit Command D on a Mac and duplicate that layer. And with that new layer selected, I'm going to change the wipe angle to go to the other side. So I'm going to go, instead of 90, I'm going to go negative 90 and hit Enter. And now I need to fill in this space up top here. So I'm going to take this same layer again, hit Duplicate, select the new layer, and I'm going to change this from negative 90 to 0 and hit Enter. Now I need to change my completion and bring that back down. There we go. Doesn't look too bad. All right, next up I'm just going to move my text up above this rectangle. The starting soon, I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, and then I'm going to move this up here and then center it with the align tool. And I'm going to change this text to Mando Brando Gaming. I'm going to select the text again and make this a little bit smaller, I think 30, and then just make sure that's centered. And I'm going to go zoom in here just a little bit. With this top text, I want to move it up a little bit. I'm just looking at the spacing between the bottom of the text and this rectangle versus the top of this text and the rectangle. There's a little bit more space here than there is here, so I'm just going to move the Mando Brando text up a little bit, so just so it matches that spacing roughly. That looks a little better. All right, one more layer here. We're going to add a rectangle to the border. And I'm just kind of eyeballing this here, doing this kind of quick. And just kind of make it roughly even. And okay, that'll work. Let's select that layer and make sure it's aligned. Cool, that's looking pretty good. Another thing you can do is if you're using like a white text on a bright background, you want to give it like a drop shadow, and you want to do that with everything. Instead of having to go through and click on each layer, each piece of text, and add in that drop shadow, what you can do is select all those layers. So I'm selecting all of our rectangle layers and all of our text layers, and then right-clicking on it, hitting Pre-Compose. Make sure Move All Attributes is selected. Hit OK. And with that pre-comp selected, I'm going to go Layer, Layer Styles, Drop Shadow. And that gives me a shadow to everything within that layer, or within that new pre-comp. And then one more thing here. Let's take this same composition and duplicate it, Command D, And with the one on the bottom, I'm going to open this back up and I'm going to get rid of that drop shadow. So I'm going to hit this eyeball. So I want to duplicate the shadow, just the layer itself. And with that layer selected, I'm going to go Effect, Blur, Directional Blur. I'm going to change the direction to 90 because I know I want this blur direction going side to side. And I'm going to bring this blur length up. Let's try maybe 100. Maybe like 200. So let's just blur in that background. And I want to bring the opacity down because I don't want to be too distracting. I just want it to show up a little bit. So maybe like half, maybe like 50%. That's kind of cool. That works. That'll about do it for today. I hope this tutorial helps. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on more tutorials like this one. Have a great day.